Hi, my name is Jeannie and this is my YouTube channel. So in this video, I will be discussing a Nichiren Buddhist topic because sometimes in my YouTube video, I discuss like coaching. So I'm a certified hypnotist. I also do book reviews, book interviews, and everything in between. So this is like my central channel that is like the go-to place of the things that I'm into. But from time to time I do post Nichiren Buddhist stuff or Nichiren Buddhist topics. So I had made a video earlier. I don't know if I'm gonna post it or not, but regardless, I'm just gonna discuss like a similar thing, which is the concept of karma, but then I'm gonna add maybe something more. So a friend of mine asked me about karma. So our general concept in the Western world of karma is that um, when you do something bad, it's gonna get back to you and back at you and bite you in the butt. Let's say you did something to a person, it's gonna, that person or maybe another person will do the same thing to you. And so that is like a simplified version of, or another way of describing karma, but that's not the whole picture of karma. Because in Nichiren Buddhism, karma actually means thoughts, intentions, and actions. So your thought is already like a cause that has a corresponding effect. So karma actually is comprised of a cause and then an effect. So it's like it's a feedback thing. So when you create a thought that creates, or an intention, it has an effect on the world around you. But what really has a greater impact is your action. Taking action on your thoughts has a greater impact. Just intending to do something but not really acting something or acting on something doesn't really have like a greater effect on your reality or your external reality, unlike action. Like really taking action is what will produce, like taking physical action will produce an actual physical effect. And sometimes it will also create like an emotional effect. An action that you create right now may create like, may hurt someone emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally. Your actions right now may also, have like an unintended consequences. So we have like 4 types of karma. There's the individual karma, there's the family karma, the collective karma, and then the other karma is, you may or may not believe in it, but it really depends on you. It's like the thought of, karmic effects of previous lifetimes. So it's up to you if you believe it or not. So I'll discuss that later on. So I'm just going to go to individual karma. So what is individual karma? So let's say you're irresponsible with money. So you create the action, the cause of being irresponsible with money. So maybe spending your money, spending all of your paycheck on vices or just shopping, just doing things irresponsibly with your money, maybe drinking. So that has an effect, and the effect might not show up right away. So you might not get broke overnight, but if you continue to do the path, to go on the path that you're going, it will have an effect eventually. You may not see it right now, but it will have an effect. And also, let's say another example is an action that you take is you finish college. So, and you finish like maybe your master's or your PhD or MD. And then so that's your action. And let's say, you don't experience the effect right away, but maybe 10 years down the road, it leads to, better pay, better circumstances. Whereas if you did not finish high school or college, or you didn't go to school at all, your prospects of getting a job may not be that good. But I'm not saying this that you really have to finish school, but I'm just saying this in a simplified manner, that your actions right now may have an effect on your future. So action, cause, produces an effect. And then there's the concept of the family karma as well. So because we all know that our actions has an effect on the succeeding generations, or even an effect on your family. So let's say your grandfather, like, he spent all his money. So he was rich, he had land, but he spent all his money, he was a gambler. So it has an effect. So the cause that he created, the action that he created, has an effect on the current generation, which is the current generation like lost their properties, they lost their land, they lost their money. I actually, an example, I know of someone that person gambled, and that person had like a lot of money, like had a thriving business and was really loaded with cash. But because of that gambling issue, that led to family suffering. I think right now the family is dispersed. They're just scattered all over when that person died, because like the unintended effect was, like poverty for the next generation. What happened was, I think some of the kids didn't finish school, and when that person died, like the debt just like created so much suffering, and then the business like just failed. The business failed. So that is family karma. The actions that you're taking right now has consequences on your family members. The relationships that you have right now, whether good or bad, has like an effect on not just this generation, but the next generation as well. So you could have like your let's say your grandparents and your parents really had good relations with each other, and they create like a really good family environment. So you're gonna grow up under that good family environment, and you're gonna grow up well adjusted. Or your grandparents and your parents might have like the worst relationship, the worst family dynamic, which could create trauma and suffering for this generation. And in turn as well, unconsciously, you will also do that to the next generation. So there's also a concept of collective karma. So collective karma is the karma of the community, the karma of the society, the karma of the land, the karma of a country. For example, there's countries that believe in like dictatorship, so they vote or they give power away to a dictator. So, and they spend 20, 30 years under that dictatorship, because collectively those people decided like, oh, we're going to vote this person into power, and thinking that that person would solve all of their problems. But unfortunately, that person just was corrupt and just misused their power, and then created a suffering for the entire society. And it could also be generational as well. So let's say your grandparents like they supported this dictator, and this dictator happens to rule with an iron fist for 30, 40, 50 years. So that also creates like generational suffering as well. So there's collective karma, and we also see this right now. Unfortunately, we see this in some parts of the world, where like a group of people have decided like, oh, we were oppressed before, we were displaced before, And so collectively they lived in this like collective karma, and then they decided like, oh, instead of being the oppressed, we're gonna oppress people that are weaker than us. So we see this happening right now, unfortunately. So collective karma though can be good or bad. There's also, let's give a good example of good karma, collective karma. Let's say there are certain countries right now that are very progressive. They think about the society as a whole, and then they think about the well-being of, their government thinks about the well-being of their people. So collectively, this society, this country is experiencing like happiness, like good health care probably, and just really, really like good circumstances for all of its citizens. So that is collective karma as well. So there is another type of karma which you have the option, you may or may not believe it, but it will explain a lot of disparity, especially for, children or babies, like they were born into negative circumstances or positive circumstances. Let's say you were abandoned as a child, like, and I've seen this happen actually, like abandoned, like this particular like individual was surrendered by their parents, and then they just got abandoned in like an orphanage. And so that's a baby, right? So you would think like, why could that happen to a baby? And similarly, let's say there's a baby that's born into wealth. They come from multimillionaire family household, and that baby receives a lot of love, and that baby's healthy. So what can explain the disparity or the differences between these two babies? So maybe it's not the causes that certain baby or infant has created in this lifetime. Maybe it was in the previous lifetime. But I'm not saying that's good or bad, because in Nichiren Buddhism, we don't really focus on the negative and the positive, because we just focus on changing. Whether it be negative, we're just going to change it for the better. So let's say, what would explain the differences between those babies, right? Or those infants, one born into wealth, one born into poverty, one abused and suffering, the other one is well adjusted and just happy. So what would explain that? And it may not come from, that karma may not come from this lifetime, but from a different lifetime. Because in Nichiren Buddhism, we believe that in the life continues on. So we are just, it's just a phase of waking up and sleeping. So life itself is continuous, and we go through cycles of birth and rebirth, and we are a recipient of our karma from our past existences. So the Hindus believe this, but they used it in a negative way, in a way to explain, like, to create the caste system, as like, oh, okay, you're like the warrior class, you're born into the warrior class because of your karma, and then you're like the poor class. So they used it that way, but really, no matter what we created, whether in this lifetime or the past lifetime, Nichiren Buddhism is all about changing that karmic tendency, or our tendency to create certain actions that lead to a certain result. We can change it, especially if it's negative, we can change it. So again, the concept of Nichiren Buddhism is that life and death is like a cycle, of waking and sleeping, and life itself is continuous. And again, you may or may not believe this. It's really up to you. As for me, if ever like, I don't really care about my past existence, because like your present existence right now is the accumulation of all the causes that you created within this lifetime, or maybe even in the other lifetime. So what you have right now is already the effect of what happened previously. It doesn't matter what causes were created previously, because now is the time to change it, you know. So, and we've all heard of people that were born into poverty and then they determined to get out of that loop, that cycle, and then they became like billionaires, or they became like successful business owners. But we also heard of, people born into wealth that they lose it all, So it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you do at this moment. And why is it important to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo? Of course, you can change your karma anytime. You can change, you can create an action that will lead to a good result. Let's say you have an exam tomorrow, so you're most definitely going to fail if you're not going to study. So you're going to create the cause of, I'm going to study now, and the possible effect is like I'm gonna pass the exam. So that's just the simplified version of taking action, and then that action creating an effect, a desired effect. But most of the time, a lot of our actions is actually conditioned, and it's actually ingrained in us. And a lot of the time, it's like hidden from us. It's like a lot of our actions that we're taking right now are subconscious. So for example, that person that spends money, like there's no tomorrow. We don't know, like subconsciously, what happened to what is happening. It may be like from the past, like this individual, like really had a lot of money, and then they just like, that was just their conditioning. Oh, I have money, I'll always have money, and then I'll just spend. Or it could be they didn't have a lot of money before, and then once they came into money, they're like, oh, I'm just going to enjoy my life, And it may or may not lead to suffering, but only time will tell if it leads to suffering. Because our actions, it will have an effect eventually. We're not going to feel the effect right now. It's not instant. Karma can be instant, but most of the time it's not. We will, it's not going to happen overnight that you're going to be broke, or it's not going to happen overnight that you're going to be sick. If you don't take care of your health, it usually takes time. So, and that suffering that we experience, sometimes when we are the recipient of suffering, we start to wonder, like, oh, why is this happening to me? When you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you are able to elevate your consciousness and awareness, that you're just able to see, hey, if I do this, this is going to lead to that, or if I continue what my family did, I'm just going to, if I'm going to continue what my family did, I'm just going to experience the same thing. So when you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you start to realize the patterns in your life. You start to see the patterns that were hidden before, because they're at the realm of the subconscious. And I just literally heard a lecture about this. So we believe in like levels of consciousness. So there's like this is our conscious awareness right now, what we're aware, our active experience right now. And then there's also subconscious awareness, that sometimes it just lies dormant until the conditions are right. It's like, let's say you have a trauma. When you have a trauma, it's hidden in the subconscious, or the eighth consciousness in Nichiren Buddhism. And So when it gets triggered, like your reaction will like jump to the surface and it will like take over. And then, and then there's the higher consciousness, which is the Buddha consciousness. It's like the higher self. So when you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you're not ruled by the eighth consciousness or your subconscious. So you're not just going to get immediately triggered. I'm like, oh, I'm triggered right now. You're going to react differently because you see like, oh, okay, that's my subconscious programming, but I'm chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo so I can see that I'm allowing myself to be triggered. And then, so because a lot of the things that we do in daily life, it's actually conditioned responses. It's like, we're like going, everything is like automated, like it's automatic. We're on autopilot, most of the time until we get triggered. And the responses that we have, usually a lot of them are subconscious responses. Like, let's say you're afraid of cockroaches. So when the cockroach is not there, you're like, okay, but when it jumps up and then you're like, whoa, and you start screaming and then it takes over, the fear takes over. A lot of the things that we're doing is, our conscious awareness is so limited. It only sees what it sees in the surface, but it's not aware of what's in the subconscious realm. But at the same time, we cannot change our karma just at the subconscious level, in the conditioning and the conditioned response. We can't work with that. We have to go deeper, which is the ninth consciousness, which is an awareness, a consciousness that is beyond like our subconscious conditioning. It's beyond the realm of karma. What it means is that we come into this awareness and this like state of life where we, with our wisdom and then our life force, we are able to turn around even our conditioned responses, even our subconscious, unconscious responses. We're able to turn it around and we're able to create a cause that will lead us to be happier. So, okay, let's say you're an alcoholic and it's unfortunately you come from a family of alcoholics, and then your individual karma is you continue the cycle as well of just being an alcoholic. When you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, people go to therapy, but they're just working on the conscious and the subconscious realms. But it doesn't take into account like the other realms that are in play. So when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you start realizing that, oh my God, like, why am I doing this to myself? This creates so much unhappiness. And I'm just continuing the karma of my family. And also I'm also continuing the karma of my city, my town, my society, my people, a group of people, they can share collective karma as well. And so when you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you come from a more enlightened state of mind where you're not repeating the patterns. You're not reacting anymore the same way. And because you're not reacting the same way, you are determined to create a different action that will lead to a different result. But when you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, it's just natural. It's almost natural. You just take the action that needs to be taken, and that action will lead to your desired result. And so I've been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for a while now, since 2007. And of course, there's always like, negative circumstances that come up because, our subconscious, the subconscious conditioning responses or programs that we have from childhood or within this lifetime or your society, you know, it doesn't come up right away, you know, like through the years, like it comes up. So in my case, like, oh, I had an issue with this, I resolved that, and okay, I'm just going about life, and then, oh, another thing popped up, and then I resolved that as well. So we have like what we call karmic tendencies and karma as well that just pops up at the right time. So when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we are able to turn this around. We are not subject to our, you know, collective karma. You know, you are no longer ruled by the karma of the land. You're also not ruled by the family karma as well. You like, when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you realize you're so enlightened and so empowered. You have that life force that you're able to even turn around family karma as well, and also your own individual karmic tendencies. So I don't know if this helps you, but that is my explanation of karma and why chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo will help you overcome your karma. That's very simplistic. This is like the simplified version of karma because it's really, really deep. Like I've just been practicing for so long, but like every year my understanding of the practice just grows and grows and grows. So I'm going to read something about, so this is from Daisaku Ikeda, Selected Lectures on the Gosho. So the Gosho is like, it's from Nichiren. He's the founder of Nichiren Buddhism, and you know, he left behind text, you know, like for us to study, like about the doctrines basically on how Nichiren, like the teachings of Nichiren Buddhism. So Daisaku Ikeda is one of the leaders of like the SGI, like it's a lay people society, like it's a lay society for people that are practicing Nichiren Buddhism. So, but he's really so good at like explaining it, and he has a deep, profound understanding of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So he said it's like, Buddhism is totally different. The Buddhist finds truth in reality itself. He discovers the underlying truth by steadily and carefully observing man and the things around him. The true entity of all phenomena is therefore a philosophy that sees into the real aspect of every reality in the universe, especially human life. So when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, when you study this teaching and follow this teaching, you actually see, you know, patterns in your life, like the phenomena behind the phenomena. So all phenomena and the true entity are two but not two, for one cannot exist without the other. This is what binds the true entity and all phenomena together, making them one and the same, even though they may seem different. So all phenomena, sun, the moon, as they rise and set, the ebb and flow of the seas, the bending of the trees before the wind, in the eye of Buddhism, all appear as the action of Myoho Renge Kyo. Unlike the Lotus Sutra, which gives careful, deep treatment of this principle, all the other sutras deal solely with the phenomena themselves and point out only differences among them. The Lotus Sutra sees beyond the superficial differences and discovers the mystic law equally permeating the depths of all. This is what sets the perfect and all-embracing Lotus Sutra above the provisional teachings of discrimination. The principle of equality meant by the true entity of all phenomena is an expression of the Buddha's great and impartial wisdom, which recognizes the potential for Buddhahood in all people alike. So nonetheless, the first half of the Lotus Sutra is the theoretical teaching only and explains the explains this theoretically, while the second half, essential teaching, gives practical meaning to the theory. So take, for instance, Newton's law of gravitation. It is a law of physics, and even if it is not directly parallel to this Buddhist principle, we know that it operates throughout the universe. So regardless of who discovers it or whether it was discovered at all, the law of gravitation has always existed, and all things move according to it. To the eye of physics, the movement of the sun, moon, and stars, the changes in the tides, and the apple falling from the trees, all these understood in terms of the law of physics. Without understanding gravity, people merely see an apple ripening, falling to the earth, yet physicists recognize the law behind this phenomena. The gravity is working between two objects, the earth and the apple. This law keeps on working whether one is aware of it or not. But he cannot apply it to everything if he cannot first identify and analyze it. Then again, to know about gravity and not do anything with that knowledge may be a serious waste. Only when we translate this knowledge into some practical use by creating an airplane, spaceship, or something else of value to man can we enjoy the benefits of the knowledge we gain from the law of gravity. In Buddhism, the true entity of all the movements of the universe is Myoho Renge Kyo. Common mortals see nothing but trees waving in the wind, yet the Buddha sees the mystic rhythm of Myoho Renge Kyo pulsing within. To him, the sun's radiance is the harmonious manifestation of the mystic law that fosters all kinds of life on earth. Every aspect of our life is made up according to the mystic law, and we always act in rhythm to it. Merely to realize this fact is, however, theoretical understanding. Anyone who does not know how to bring life into oneness with the mystic law would be like someone falling into attempt to fly, ignorant of the law of gravitation. He would fall into one suffering and then another, only getting more and more deeply confused. So this is very deep now, but essentially when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you start to understand the workings of the universe, that the universe itself has an ebb and a flow. It has a rhythm. And when you come into rhythm with this flow, you come into happiness. When you come into rhythm with your subconscious mind and your conscious mind and your conditioning, so it's like, bumpy, especially if you don't have, good family karma, good collective karma, good individual karma, you'll just be suffering. But when you start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you sort of like elevate your consciousness so that you are aware of the workings, the inner workings of cause and effect in your life. You see things differently, like you're at I can't really explain it. It's just more like a state of life where you're like, you understand things like, oh, that's why I'm reacting this way. It's because of that. It's like a higher way of understanding things. And when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, you are more in rhythm with the workings of, the universe, especially cause and effect and karma as well. And you're no longer riding that up and down wave of that, suffering, suffering from your individual causes that you created, the negative causes that you created. Just to make it more practical, because we can talk theories all day long, but when I started chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I was, doing things that didn't lead me to be happy. And when I started chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I started doing things that led me to be happier and happier and happier. And I noticed that when I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, there's a natural, happy rhythm to my life. And when I don't, I don't chant a lot of Daimoku, so my life condition, my consciousness kind of shrinks and stuff. And I notice just the day itself is bad. I get into bad traffic, or my GPS gets all wonky. I can't understand it. There's a rhythm to chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. There's the universe itself has a rhythm. And when you're in rhythm with that flow things just are easier. You're not like being like the victim of like external circumstances. And I noticed too as well, like in my relationships, when I do not chant a lot of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, my responses are, based on my, consciousness, like conscious awareness, and also my karma, like I get triggered, like when someone does this, I get triggered and then like I get mad. So I'm not like in flow. I'm not in rhythm. I'm like working or operating on my lower consciousnesses, and as a consequence of this, external circumstances has an effect on me rather than me affecting external circumstances. So I don't know if any of this will make sense. You can go back to this video in a few years, because I keep making this video because like I know a lot of people like want to understand what the practice is about. This is just very, very simplistic explanation, more layman explanation of the practice, but you really have to try it in order to try to experience what I mean. So yeah, I hope you try chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and if you're already chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, this may just be something that will add value to you or knowledge as well. Thank you very much, and thanks for watching. Please do like, subscribe, and I created like a Nichiren Buddhist playlist. Please look at that as well. Thank you.